Introducing Arise Play, the #1 streaming channel from the heart of Africa. Celebrating Black talent and excellence in the world of entertainment. Blockbuster movies.
I make this look good.
Popular TV series.
Let the game begin.
Live music. Behind-the-scene action.
Head on over to Arise Play and let's get woke together. My new series, Woke, is exclusively on Arise Play.
Plus so much more.
Yes!
What are you waiting for? Download the app. Or visit the website today to subscribe. Join a new world of entertainment. Arise Play, beyond streaming.
A warm welcome to this week, 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues and all the controversies around the world. I'm Somna Sambo. Our top stories. President Muhammadu Buhari marks 6 years since taking office, but has he lived up to expectations and those promises of change that led to his victory? We have analysis. Plus, amid calls for political and economic restructuring, the review of Nigeria's 1999 constitution has begun, with the Senate committee in charge chairing zonal public hearings across the country. And reporting for duty, the new chief of army staff is sworn in. The Muhammadu Buhari administration clocks 6 years today, May 29, 2021. To commemorate the day, the presidency has presented a report card to celebrate the anniversary. The government says the milestone affords it an opportunity to reflect and recount the impact that is being made in different sectors of national life, from infrastructure to finance, education, healthcare to anti-corruption, among others. Ehosa Igumbo has the report.
Solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear
that I will be faithful.
that I will be faithful.
President Muhammadu Buhari was elected in 2015. He rose to power on 3 cardinal objectives: to fight insecurity, end corruption, and improve the economy. 6 years down the line, security remains one of the administration's greatest challenges. On more than one occasion, they've claimed to defeat Boko Haram, but that's far from the reality on the ground. Banditry, school abductions, and clashes between herders and farmers are sweeping across the country, but the government says it's got it all under control. The Buhari government is also viewed as having failed to expand the economy, reduce the country's dependency on oil, and follow through on its anti-corruption pledges. But in a report card released on Friday, the presidency boasts of significant achievements in the last 6 years, strides it claims critics have failed to acknowledge. The special advisor to the president on media, Femi Adesina, reports successes in 25 areas, including health, education, security, agriculture, sports, and anti-corruption. Other areas are housing, oil and gas, foreign relations, and the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. But despite the reported success, critics say Buhari has shown that he has neither the skill nor the will to lead a country as complex as Nigeria. The government has embarked on huge infrastructure development programs on roads, rails, and power. These come at a cost that require more borrowing, but there are concerns that the Buhari government might lead Nigeria into a second debt trap. The promise to take 100 million people out of poverty in 10 years is being viewed with lots of skepticism, with the unemployment rate steadily on the rise. With almost 8% of unemployment recorded in 2020, the government claims to have the best job creation and poverty alleviation initiatives in Nigeria's history. It's now 6 years since the Buhari government promised change. The question remains, are Nigerians getting the change they asked for? Do they deserve better? But Femi Adesina thinks the question can only be truly answered when the administration breasts the tape in 2 years. He believes the applause will be resounding even from the worst skeptics. Egusa Igumbo, Arise News.
All right, so how has the president fared in 6 years? Well, in the studio with me, Ahmad Sajo, the ex-commissioner for information in Adamawa State and who is an APC chieftain, and then Yabagi Sani, the national chairman of the Action Democratic Party, and in our overflow studio is Dr. Kachi Ononuju, who is the Director General Heritage Center and a political strategist. Well, let me start with you, Ahmad Sajo, on how your government has fared 6 years into the Buhari administration. The spokesman of the president says Nigerians seem not to have been seeing what the president is doing and that his critics are too hard on him and that they just need to open their eyes more to see clearly what the president has achieved, and he rolled out the achievements.
Yeah, I think I would start my 6 years ago from a personal perspective. 6 years ago, around this time, my father and his entire family were refugees in Cameroon. My area was taken over by Boko Haram, and my town was renamed Madinatul Islam, and it was the capital of a caliphate of Boko Haram. Today we are back home, and I think for me that's a very huge change, and it's something I'm very, very proud of. We had about 7 local governments in my own state that were under the flag of Boko Haram, but today none is under the flag of Boko Haram. So there are some changes there. And 6 years down the line, about 27 states could not pay salaries. Some owed salaries of upwards to nearly 2 years. But the Buhari came and gave out bailouts, and salaries were cleared in virtually all the states of the Federation. Any state that is owing workers today is doing so deliberately, not because the state was not supported to clear that. 6 years ago, I know of a lot of people who were not willing to go to the farm because there was no incentive to go to the farm. The Anchor Borrowers scheme came, and over 70 million people, directly or indirectly through the value chain, benefited from the strides that occurred as a result of it. About 33 million tons of fertilizer were produced annually. That were, fertilizer used to be something you go and struggle and fight to acquire and things like that. And I think there are strides there. I am also aware that 6 years ago, yes, we had problems with the quantum of power that was generated in the country. Today we don't have that quantum of power. I know that the roads that we're applying today, a lot of them there were interventions on those roads. I know that 6 years ago there was no rail line between Kaduna and Abuja. There was no rail line between Lagos and Ibadan. There was no rail line between Itakpe and Warri. These are some of the achievements of the administration. Very glaring achievements.
All right. Well, we'll bring in Dr. Kachi Ononuju to talk about that. Dr. Kach, I'm very sure you must have heard what the APC chieftain here is saying are the achievements of the government, including what Femi Adesina had said in that statement. What's your own view, especially from the People's Democratic Party?
Well, thank you very much. I simply will like to look at the truth about the past 6 years. Since President Buhari came here, today, thanks to Buhari's employment of nepotism and the weaponization of ethnic cleansings, today Nigeria is recognized as a state sponsor of terrorism. Why? Because of Buhari's tacit support for the Fulani bandit militias and the Fulani herdsmen militia, who are recognized across the world as terrorist organizations. As I'm talking to you right now, my own state, Imo, is under hellfire because of what we believe are false flag operations, which you can see there is soldiers shooting people, police shooting people for no just cause. I'm talking about Imo State. Now, you look at, as I'm talking to you, the southern governors have come together in an unprecedented unity to say that they do not agree with Buhari's support for the Fulani bandit terrorism group and the Fulani militia terrorism group known as herdsmen, and that despite the setting up of Amotekun by the Yoruba against President Buhari's support for these terrorists going down to the southwest as Fulani herdsmen militia, and also his support of what we now refer to as the unknown gunmen. Because if you look at the cascade of violence across the country, in the northeast it's called the Boko Haram, which has now been effectively taken over by ISIS West African province, and also in the northwest you have what he calls the Fulani bandits militia, in the north central, and in the southwest you have the herdsmen militia, and in the old eastern region we today have the unknown gunmen. All this, President Buhari has not allowed any prosecution or stringent pursuit of these terrorist people. Our country has now become enveloped as a terrorist.
All right,
nation,
let's have your views. You have basically talked so much about insecurity in the country, yes, which is a major decision, a major issue that's affecting the country. But the president actually rolled out his so-called successes in several parts of the nation. Let's have one of the opposition leaders here to, we've heard from the two biggest political parties. You are the national chairman of the Action Democratic Party. What's your assessment of President Buhari's 6 years in government and the APC too?
Well, I think the narratives have been very, very inductive of the government of the day, in the sense that my brother here said 6 years ago his father and his family were not in Nigeria because of the Boko Haram. But 6 years ago too, in Niger State, like what happened a month ago, we didn't have bandits taking over about 30 or over 30 villages. And today, as we speak here, people are being killed. Just yesterday, some parts of Niger State were overrun. That's my state. I cannot travel to Niger State now, as I used to. So what it means is that the situation in this country has now reached a stage where Nigeria has become a fully failed state. What does failed state mean? Failed state is a state that cannot secure, cannot provide security for its citizens. It can't provide the needs, the basic needs of the people for them. Just some few minutes before coming here, I watched a video. Some people trooped to the emir of Ilorin's house, saying a big by me, which means we are going.
They're
feeling hungry in thousands. So that did not happen 6 years ago. So the fact of the matter is that this country today is a fully failed state. And the danger is this: the government of the day has failed to own up that they have lost control.
But both of you have just focused on insecurity. The government has outlined economic achievements.
I'm talking about. Look at even the GDP. Look at unemployment. Look at our debt profile. Our debt profile today is about $86 billion. 33 billion external loan and about 53 billion, domestic loan, internal loans. Who is going to pay these loans? Look at our external reserves. Our external reserves are depleted, to about less than $27 billion, and our debt profile external is about over $30 billion. What it means is that care is not taken. This country will become another pariah state. what I'm trying to say is that if our revenue that we make from this country, 90% or 99% of revenue we make is used to service debt, then how are you going to develop the infrastructure?
Well, they've already said that they are developing the railways. The railways were not in existence 6 years ago,
money
but
from
they are
Chinese
now.
that will become colony of Chinese
But
very soon. That's what it means.
The railways are there.
We have even signed our sovereignty, to China, and somebody is telling us that it's not true.
Okay, well, let's just come back to you, Sergio. Do you think that the critics of the government are really unfair to it? Just like we have seen the government saying that the critics will only know the achievements of the government after the full 8 years of the government.
Let's understand one thing. There's a huge media bias against the government. And you exemplified it very easily on this platform now. You said Buhari's so-called achievement. I think that is unfair for you, who is supposed to be neutral in anchoring.
Well, we are saying that because that's what the people are telling us.
When you call something so-called,
that the achievements are on paper. That's what many of them said. But yes, where you have achieved, I've also given you kudos.
I have agreed with you, but I am also telling you that you're supposed not to determine for the people. If the people tell you, you are not also supposed to determine for them. So what we are saying is that, there has always been borrowing in this country. But when the money is borrowed, where does it go to? It was always borrowed and put in people's pocket. Today, the borrowing, the infrastructure that we have borrowed to provide is there. Anybody who tells you that this infrastructure is not there is not telling the truth. If you tell me that railways are not rolling from locations to locations that I have mentioned, then I will say, okay, you are telling me I'm lying. But I'm not lying on that. All this hammering about insecurity is fantastic. We have a problem with security, and everyone is putting his hands on deck to address the security issue. But the ethnicization of security concerns, the ethnic profiling, the regional profiling, the demonizing of certain individuals, and
your government came to power on that threshold to resolve the issue of insecurity. Exactly. I mean, that's what President Buhari campaigned for. And a lot of people called him a general who can deliver,
and he has delivered. He has delivered.
Well, that's subject.
I am telling you that he has. In my own case, he has delivered. There is no flag of any terrorist flying anywhere in the northeast.
But we've heard that the ISIS are in charge of Sambisa Forest along with Boko Haram. The ISIS doing the job of the Nigerian military, which is supposed to tackle Boko Haram and kill Shekau.
There is no ISIS in Nigeria, there is ISWAP.
Yes, ISWAP, which is the Islamic State West Africa province.
Exactly. There is a clash between two groups. There are bound to be clash between two groups. As far as we are concerned, we're concerned about securing our country, not about focusing on the clash between two terror groups.
But they are doing that within the territory of Nigeria.
Yeah, they're doing that within the territory of Nigeria, but they're not hoisting their flag in any local government,
including Gaydam of recent, where we saw them going to the hometown of the acting inspector general of police.
And are they still there? Were they dislodged or they were not? They were dislodged.
Well, there was a success there.
Exactly.
We must give it to you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll just have to go to Dr. Kach, where we will take a critical analysis of the three key areas that Buhari promised Nigerians. The issue of resolving insecurity, boosting the economy, and then tackling corruption. What's your view about the achievements of those three key areas?
Thank you very much. First, on the issue of the economy. Under Buhari, within 6 years, we've had 2 recessions. This is historical. It's never happened before in Nigeria's history. 2 recessions. Under Buhari, our economy has so tanked. In all the indices since we settled into democracy, only under him have we only recorded 0.56% economic growth since he came. Others were having 28% or whatever. See another very dirty issue. The gentleman telling you about borrowing. You borrow from the Chinese, there is nothing we see for it. As at the time Buhari took over in 2015, Nigeria paid 29% of its revenue. They used that to service debt. 2020 last year, we paid 101%. That means we had to get money elsewhere to add to our total national earnings to pay debt. And you can hear what people are saying in the account of somebody who works for Buhari, private account. They saw 1.5 trillion. So the humongous quality of corruption we are seeing under Buhari is unprecedented. Now look at, we have killings all over. We have insecurity all over. Where is Buhari to address the country? He's nowhere. That man coming there to tell me this and that. Where is Buhari?
I must say that has been disputed because the accused has actually written to the EFCC saying that he should be probed because there's no such amount in his account. So that's not based on facts.
Well, you are just talking about what he has written. We know others who have also been accused and the government has not done anything. Look at the issue of our military. Because of Buhari's putting Buratai there for so long, we've now had to lose people who went through course 35, course 32, course 33, course 34, course 30, 29, and we are suddenly in 36 of our entire military training of high-grade officers because of Buhari's employment of nepotism as policy. Can't you see the Nigerian army is no more Nigerian army? How come the whole country is suddenly now in turmoil because of Buhari's weaponization of ethnic cleansing, which has not stopped in Kaduna, which has not stopped, as you can see, the deaths that also has occurred in Benue? Why is Buhari allow people of his ethnicity to go about killing other people simply to seize ancestral land? Can't we address that? Is that too much to beg that he stops the killings of other people by the Fulani militia all over the country?
Just hold your thoughts there, Dr. Kachan. Let's come back to you, Yabagi Sani. Let's talk about the issue of anti-corruption. This government says it has been fighting corruption, and then we had in the past few days how they've recovered certain amounts from the Zani Alice Madeke, which has been a recurring issue over and over, and then we've seen lots of funds being retrieved from foreign countries back to Nigeria and all of that. How would you assess Buhari on the issue of anti-corruption?
Well, there's a lot of movement. I mean, a lot of motion, but no movement, really. Most of it are rhetoric. Most of the loots that we are talking about have been restoring again. And the fact of the matter is that this government that we have today is just a government that likes to be economical with the truth in terms of its programs. What do I mean? We have cases of people very close to Buhari who have been indicted, and the only time effective action was taken, I'm talking about, for instance, the former Secretary of the Government of Federation. The only time action was taken against that officer was when Buhari was not in the country. And since then, tell me which officer of this government that we know, you know, like allegations, of course, when allegations come, a government is supposed to investigate.
Well, it's already doing that with the NPA, for example, the Nigerian Ports Authority.
Well, Nigerian Ports Authority.
The MD of that agency is under investigation by the same government.
Then you look at you know, the military itself, NMPC. I'm talking about oil and gas sector. You know, these are the key sectors of the economy that government should not, you know, touch with kid glove. What do I mean? The military. How do you explain a situation where 300,000 strong, you know, force for 10 years or so cannot quash approximately 5,000 ragtag terrorists, you know, that are in Sambisa forest? How do you explain that? And this is a military that has $2 billion every year, you know, the budget, and they cannot. Why? Because corruption is endemic in the ministry.
Well, I don't think they have $2 billion as a budget.
Well, if you look at,
we had $1 billion being given to them by the National Assembly.
What about the budget? Look at our budget. What was given to internal security? I mean, the interior. I mean, Minister of Interior.
You're saying the entire
the police. Yeah, I'm talking about the entire security outfit. I'm talking about. You know, if you add it together, it runs into trillions. You know, so it's not. I'm not just making a statement that I don't have facts and figures to back. You know, the point I'm making. No. The point I'm making is that these areas I've mentioned, NMPC, the military, they are directly under Mr. President, and the corruption is so endemic in those two key areas of the economy.
So you score them very low. You score them very low. Is that what you're saying?
The issue is this: we are not making any progress because these two areas, these two key arms of the economy, are not really dealt with in the manner that a president should supervise them.
Okay, just hold your thoughts because we just have to have.
I have talked only about the economy.
You want to break.
Corruption.
Just hold on.
Okay.
So the issue of the anti-corruption right now, how would you score your government in that area?
I think the government has done very well, and I want to tell you that 90% of, and I've learned this over time. Anytime somebody tells you, let us tell the truth, the next statement that comes is far away from the truth. You see, everything people are saying, even on this program now, they are bandying figures that don't exist, figures that are not facts, but the facts are very clear. The recoveries are known, the prosecutions are known, these are glaring, and there is nowhere in this country where you say there's a sacred cow. The guy gives, one of our panelists gave example with the secretary to the government of the federation. If the system was not very honest about fighting corruption, he would have been, nothing would have stopped him from being covered.
We've heard that
generally
there are delays in prosecuting.
Generally, no. This is our judicial issue. We're discussing the constitutional review. One of the areas we need to review is the slowness in the granting of the will of justice.
Okay, we just have to go on a break now.
It's not
just before we go, we want to thank you, Dr. Kachi Ononuju, for staying with us and joining us, because we'll be having other guests joining from our Overflow studio. Thanks so much for your time here. It's time for us to go on a short break. When we return, we'll be taking a look at the latest on the review of the National Constitution Review that's ongoing. Stay with us. Welcome back to This Week. I'm Somna Sambo, and we've been having discussions on the 6 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, and we'll now be moving to the issue of the constitutional review in the country. The process for reviewing Nigeria's 1999 constitution gathered momentum this week with calls for the creation of more states and devolution of powers to already existing states. Restructuring and fiscal federalism also featured prominently in presentations made by stakeholders at zonal public hearings in 12 venues nationwide. Officials from the River State government said the country needs a constitution that will give everyone a sense of belonging. And in the North Central region, representatives of Southern and Northern Kaduna have agreed to create 2 new states from the present Kaduna. The review also includes a critical look at Nigeria's security architecture and comprehensive judicial and electoral reforms, with some others calling for a brand new constitution. So let me start with you, Yabagi Sani, who I still have with me here in the studio. You are the national chairman of the Action Democratic Party. And then, of course, I have Ahmad Sajo, who is the former commissioner for information in Adamawa State. And then we'll be joined by Yinka Shotade, political strategist and analyst from our Overflow studio. But let's come to you. What's your view on the constitutional review? Because the President Muhammadu Buhari administration has said that most of the demands for restructuring and all of that lies with the National Assembly are not it. Do you think this is the proper step that has been followed? Well,
I believe the constitution we have is a living document. What I mean, it's a document that has inbuilt, the mechanism for its examination, as we move on. And perhaps that's what Mr. President is talking about, the fact that you have exclusive legislative list of items in the Constitution, you have concurrent list of items in the Constitution, and when you listen to what people are saying, it's about what the federal government is doing and what the states are doing. And amendments, like I said, are inherent. Not only in Nigerian Constitution, you'll find that. Those calling for a new Constitution may have their reasons why they think that way. But I believe that there's no Constitution that is God-given. It's not Quran or Bible to the extent that you can say cannot be amended. And there's no country that, if you trace it long enough, constitutions of most countries are put together by few people. When they talk about military, yes, military, but it wasn't the military that really brought about the constitution. It was civilians. I know that Professor Yadudu was the one who led, the 1999 constitution, under, I think it was
the late Rotimi Williams.
Yes, and then most of them came together, and then they put the constitution together. So it wasn't particular, like they say, that is a military constitution that's given to us, and for that reason we should throw it away. No, I think we should just go by the nature of every constitution, which means you can amend it at any point in time. That's why you have your representatives in the National Assembly. But the problem, which I think this constitutional review should address, there are 2 items for me that I think if the National Assembly will do justice to the people of this country and serve their purpose, is you see two bills, PIB, Petroleum Inland Industry Bill, the amendment to the electoral law. Those are fundamental.
Well, the National Assembly is already working on both of them, and they don't need constitutional review.
I'm talking about filibustering, filibustering on those 2 important bills, like the electoral bills.
Okay.
And then coming to the issue of, you mentioned things about state creation. Yeah. My state, Niger State, the Nupes, in Niger State, and from Niger, Kogi, Niger and Kwara, have also submitted, a proposal for creation of Edu State.
Okay, that's all the thoughts. We need to get Yinka from our Overflow studio so that he will react to some of these issues before we come back here. So, Yinka, what's your view generally on the constitutional review and the demands for creation of new states? Do you think that we have the resources to accommodate new state creation, while some people are also calling for regionalism? How do we match both demands?
You see, the truth about it is that, flowing from the last speaker, he talked about the 1999 Constitution, and he made allusion to civilians being co-opted or assigned by the then military government to engage citizens and guide or lead the engagement of citizens and bring contributions together. You see, the issue about the people and why we still call that constitution a military constitution is the issue of trust. It's the issue of inadequate engagement of every stakeholder within the state, every interest. And you see, it flows back to what they're doing now. For me, What the National Assembly is doing is captured in the book of Matthew 9:17. They are attempting to put a new wine in an old skin. The Bible further went and said the skin will tear, it will rupture. These issues that we are discussing, how are they fundamentally addressing the yearnings of those who are talking about restructuring? That's one. Two, you say there are two centers in each geopolitical zones for this constitution amendments, this charade process we have on. With less than 1,000 people, how did we even arrive at the invitations to those sittings to start with? Why are we not considering, if it's a constitution, something that binds the life of a nation, something more holistic, something that trickles down to the local government? As a matter of fact, even to the wards. For example, in the 1963 Constitution, when there was a consideration for the Midwestern region, there was a conduction of plebiscites around the nation. Why are we not doing something that will trickle down to the local level, where every Nigerian will have a right to contribution? Every demographic, every interest will contribute. You aggregate these views, the National Assembly juggles it along the lines of all the provisions of the Constitution, then submit back to people on amendments through a referendum for adoption. That, I think, is a way to truly and robustly engage the interest of Nigerians on a document that guides their daily living. There are too many issues to handle.
We must state it very clearly here that the Nigerian Constitution does not have room for referendum. So there's no how the National Assembly can allow for referendum when the Constitution, which is the guiding document now, talks about that. So we'll come back to you and we hear your views as a ruling party and why the APC, for example, failed to implement the El-Rufai committee that was set up by the same party. Because if some have said that if some of the recommendations were implemented by President Muhammadu Buhari, that wouldn't have been having these agitations. Because the APC has seen the need for that. They campaigned for it in 2015, but we haven't seen the implementation.
No. Let us agree on one thing. It was agreed ab initio that only the National Assembly can do something about it. So the party collated views and information and naturally passed it to the National Assembly.
But there are some administrative ones that can be implemented without the National Assembly.
The National Assembly is the one responsible for amending the Constitution. And not only the National Assembly, but the 36 states houses of assembly. So we're following the due process. But I want to tell you that what we need in this country, and I presented a memo. I represented my own people. We presented a memo.
I hope you're not asking for a state.
We're asking for our own state. But we're not asking for a state. We're asking for a restoration of our pre-1961 status. We're the only ones in this country. By February 11th, 1961, we voted willingly to join this country.
Yes,
and we voted as an entity. And we are denied that status of an entity.
And what do you mean by being denied that status? Because
we
there was a plebiscite and you decided to join Nigeria.
Yes, but we were told during the plebiscite that join Nigeria, you will continue to remain your regional status. Your capital will continue to remain a capital of a region. But our capital is not a capital of a region. We are not a regional. We don't have a regional status. But so we have been treated very badly. And I'll give you one example. Something happened in 1979. Shehu Shagari made a pronouncement that every college of arts and science in the country will become a university. We had a Federal College of Arts and Science in Mubi, the headquarters of our former province that we came into this country with.
The Sadona province.
The Sadona province. Immediately that pronouncement was made, it was changed that all the universities will have to be at state capitals. Even at that time,
very interesting.
Zaria was not a state capital. Ife was not and is still not a state capital. Umudike was not and is still not a state capital. So when it came to us, the rule changed. Now when they established some new universities presently, from Jonathan's era to date, where are they located? Only one of the 6 of Jonathan, only one was located in a state capital.
So what are your demands?
So what we are saying is that if the only way we can get, and from 1999 to date, nobody from my area sat in the Federal Executive Council.
Well, you've had a vice president. You had the vice. How many parts of the country have had a vice president?
The vice president's voting point is in Yola. It's not in our place. Anyway, but what I'm saying is that, you know, in actual, honest discussion on this matter, we need a constitution that provides the federal government with the responsibility of only setting standards. Let the states begin to fend for themselves. So we need
the calls for fiscal federalism are in line.
In line.
Okay.
One,
because people have said that the 52% revenues that federal government is taking is just too much.
Number two, look, 1993, I was a local government secretary in Mubi. We were paying salaries without waiting for allocation. So we just going
So
backward.
how did that change?
Exactly. That's number one. Number two, I am for equality of the regions. You know, at present, the regions are not equal. And so people begin to feel we have not been treated fairly, we have not been. If you are picking appointees according to locations, according to the regions, then we must create some basis of equality.
Well, the regions that we have right now are not recognized by the Constitution. This is geopolitical zones. Let's have your views on the groups like Afenifere saying that, look, this constitution exercise is going to be a charade at the end of the day because they don't think that President Buhari will even sign it, and then that they don't even believe in the 1999 Constitution. Well, can we really have a new constitution when we have a National Assembly in place that's holding the sovereignty on behalf of the people?
Well, the issue is this. You see, some people have a mindset, you know, about the Nigeria as a nation, and they try to bring that into the whole issue of constitutional, you know, review, to the extent that they do not believe that these arrangements, as enshrined in the present constitution, will be able to address their own, what I will call, extraordinary, you know, expectations, you know, by way of restructuring, rebuilding. You know, it's like you destroy the whole thing.
The issue of restructuring has been very controversial.
So my views about the whole thing is that we already have a National Assembly, and it's just to be wishful thinking, you know, to think that people outside that, you know, constitutional arrangement, you know, body of National Assembly will be able to superimpose what does not sit well with already settled issues, you know, in this country, such as the regions as we have them, such as the structure of the government as we have them today, and the issue of security itself. You know, people talk about, you know, state police. I know you'll be coming to that, and again, fiscal federalism that we talk about. Yes, you can have it, but please let us, for a moment, look at how the state governors, with the kind of responsibilities given to them now, how are they discharging their responsibilities?
Well, they said they are unable to discharge these responsibilities because they do not have enough money is coming to them. They don't have access to security structures.
The little you have, what have you done with it? You know, the little they have, what have they done with it? To show you that, yes.
So are you against state police, for example, because you are afraid that they may misuse it?
No, as a national chairman of a political party, and what we are suffering today, under the local government elections that is under the state, I believe that nobody will ever subscribe to anything of giving an instrument of coercion, you know, to the governors that cannot allow a councillor to be elected on another political party.
Because of your experience of having governors or the ruling party just winning fully. Well, we just have to go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue that discussion. It's time for a short break now. When we return, we'll be discussing the implications of all of this, including the talking about the new chief of army staff that has just taken office. Stay with us. Welcome back to This Week. I'm Sumner Sambo. This is the show where we hold the best of conversations and analysis on the issues trending in the country. And we'll still continue with this constitutional review exercise briefly before we get into the last story. Yinka, I want you to summarize the feelings of Nigerians on this issue and whether they actually believe that the National Assembly is capable of giving us a constitution that will assuage the feelings of Nigerians, especially those agitating for secession and restructuring and all of that.
Well, like I said earlier, amidst reality,
all right, we seem to be having some issues now, and I will just come to you very quickly. Do you think that this National Assembly is capable of giving Nigerians a constitution that will be acceptable, considering the comments of people like the Senate President Ahmad Lawan, who has said that restructuring should start with the governors and not from the center?
No. I think he has not said anything very strange. If we are to restructure and to devolve powers down the line, then everybody must be committed to the restructuring. If the federal government will just set the standards for how the states should be governed, the state must also take the responsibility of setting standards for how the local governments are going to be governed. If the federal government is going to devolve resources and powers to the states to function effectively, then the states must also learn to devolve powers to local governments to allow them function effectively. There is no question about it. But I think we are all making one very terrible error. To amend the constitution, aside from the National Assembly, there is the 36 states of the Federation. All of them must have an input. So it presupposes that every one of these people in the 36 states and in the National Assembly are elected by the people. So we need to resolve some of these issues. And I give you one issue that we need to resolve. Aside from resolving the issue of those who are agitating for secession, those of us that have been deprived, the trust we put in Nigeria, aside from all of
the
this,
benefits of full citizenship.
there are people also, for example, the FCT. I am very passionate about the FCT. Why will the FCT people become stateless in a country where everybody has a state?
Yes, I mean, a lot of people have said that we still have a military arrangement, contraption
so what
here,
we are
where
saying is
the
that
president is the governor of FCT at the same time.
The correction should be holistic. But when the corrections are done, like Ahmed Lawal says, I throw my weight behind him, that let all the stratas of governance accept that now the restructuring had included some level of trust in the components that are within their control.
Okay, now I think we have Yinka Shotadena. If you can hear us, can you just briefly talk about this, the expectations of Nigerians on the National Assembly to fulfill the demands for a document that actually meets the yearnings of all citizens?
Considering that this is not the first time we're having the back and forth of the attempt to review the constitutions without much traction, at least the bills have not seen the light of the day, even while they're in their first or second or whatever readings. Nigerians believe that we are going to have a problem of political will of this set and crop of legislators to get all these contributions passed into law. That's one. Secondly, we are dealing with a very huge mistrust issue between the leaders and the led. These are legislators that are supposed by procedures of their house to have been relating with their people before now. And it seems that this process has just landed us at a pot where we cannot but say that it is not inclusive enough. The truth is that two centers in a geopolitical zone with less than 1,000 people seated in each, without all interest groups, all demographics represented, do not seem in any way to truly reflect what the opinions and the contributions of people could be or will be. So as far as I'm concerned, the words on the street, should they like to hear, is that citizens don't trust them with the political will. They think this is not inclusive enough. And they think that we need to rejig the whole approach to this. If we want to restructure or we want to rejig our constitution, please, let's just take the pain of going through the normal route. We do elections. The elections trickle down to what? There are so many things we do as a people in our national life that trickles down to contribution.
All right, I think I will just have to go on to other issues, and I want you to just stay there while we take your views on this. Major General Farouk Yahya has been sworn in as Nigeria's new Chief of Army Staff. The ceremony took place at the Army headquarters in the capital, Abuja. Yahya was appointed by President Muhammadu Buhari on Thursday and becomes the 22nd Chief of Army Staff. He started work with an inspection of guard at the Army headquarters before addressing senior officers in a closed-door meeting. It began with a minute of silence for the former Chief of Army Staff, the late Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Ibrahim Matairu, who died in a plane crash last week in Kaduna. And I want you, Yinka, to give me your summary on the expectations from the new Chief of Army Staff. What do you think the country should be expecting from him right now, considering the challenges on ground which he met?
Well, naturally, if you look at the man's CV, you would feel this is air and water tight. The man has been the theater commander for Operation Dole Lafia, right at the heart of the insurgency right now. So we're dealing with a man who's got sufficient experience in terms of his professional experience as to what the real issues are to fight insurgency. And we're just hoping that the man is given every support he needs, from technological sophistication to arms and ammunition, and all he requires to do his job properly. We believe the man has got a sufficient CV, but the government also needs to look in the direction of ensuring the deployment of technology and more finance to defense. That, I think, is what the man needs. We should also be looking at unbundling the command so that the commands at the regional and state level can act expeditiously.
Very well. Just hold on there. Let's get the views of Yabagi here. What are expectations on this? Although we've had lots of challenges, even the opposition saying that, look, bringing him from course 37 and then leaving course 36, 35, and 34, it means we are losing a lot of generals. But what are the expectations you have for him on his appointment?
Well, I wish him well, and I believe that he knows that he has a lot of his job cut out for him, in the sense that he needs to hit the ground running. And what I mean to say is that he has to take proper care of his troops, and the government must give him the required support in terms of finance and technology. Beyond that, also, we need to really address the issue of insecurity itself. Things that cannot come to us as ordinary citizens, which government is aware of, they should address those issues. Some few days ago, the Attorney General of Federation was telling us that there are individuals that have identified who are behind the insecurity in this country. They should deal with those issues with dispatch.
Oh, okay.
Because we don't know who they are.
But the Attorney General knows, and the President knows.
But the issue is this. You see, Boko Haram issues like this, if you allow them to fester,
very quickly, we have to allow Sergio to say something. Your governor has explained why they appointed him, and they felt he is the best to represent their interests and the interests of Nigerians. What are the challenges that he needs to tackle, and how much support are you giving to him?
You know, this war is both kinetic and non-kinetic.
Yes,
and
very quickly.
And in the military, we have the commanding officer and the officer commanding. Luckily, we have a commanding officer who was an officer commanding as well. So he understands the system, both laterally and vertically. Okay. And I believe that we have the right choice in the person that will pilot the kinetic approach to ending.
I'm afraid we don't have enough time, but at least you have the good wishes of everyone, including the opposition, who say you've made the right choice. Well, we must thank you, Yinka Shotade, from our Overflow studio for joining us to discuss these issues, and then Yabagi Sani, who's national chairman of the Action Democratic Party, and then Ahmad Sajo, very strong former commissioner of information in Adamawa State, who's an APC chieftain. They've all been here, and earlier on, we have Dr. Kachio Nonoju. Well, we must thank all of you for joining us to analyze Buhari's government at 6 and what the government is doing to ensure that the remaining 2 years are achieved fully. That's it for this edition of This Week from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye and thank you for watching.